Welcome to the PI podcast. This is episode 1. We've got some exciting stories that we're going to talk about today. I'll let Pritesh take it away.
So, first things first, we got to start off with the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was a really good Super Bowl this year. It's one of the best Super Bowls I think I've seen.
100%.
I've seen. Like, that game was so close, and it came down to a fourth down play, and it was just such a good game, and a good team won the Super Bowl, while as the other team, they could have won it, but they didn't. They really tried their hardest to beat some of the best teams in the league, and they fell short.
I think it was the perfect ending to the 2021-2022 NFL season. The entire season was awesome. The playoffs were awesome. I mean, leading up to that, the Bills and Chiefs game, best playoff game I've ever watched in my life.
That Bills and Chiefs game was so good. It rivals that Chiefs-Rams game from 4 years ago.
100%.
It rivals that because that game was so good. That was prime Todd Gurley, or at least the end of his prime. And it was just Patrick Mahomes versus Jared Goff. And Jared Goff still quarterback of the Rams. And they went 50 burgers all across the place. And everybody went crazy. That was such a crazy game. But this Bills-Chiefs game, Josh Allen put his heart into this game.
Yeah. To take the lead with 13 seconds left, up 3. Yeah, I was at home thinking Josh Allen's finally getting to the Super Bowl.
Same. I was thinking to myself, 13 seconds. There's no way Josh Allen did it again with Gabriel Davis having 4 touchdowns. That was crazy. And you know what? I looked at defense when I was watching the game, and I was like, what are they doing? What is the Bills defense doing? When you have 2 all-pro safeties and you have the number 1 scoring defense in the league and number 1 overall defense in the league, and the first down play for 30 seconds left, you give up 20 yards?
I know. The Chiefs just need 3 to tie it. And you give them up Travis Kelce up the middle for 25 yards, 30 yards, and then to set them up for the field goal. That goes to say, what do you think about the overtime?
So, a lot of people I know I've been seeing, they hate the overtime rules, but I like it. I like it as is, because it's not college. This isn't college. This is professional NFL sports with professional players, and I like the overtime rules, and they should stick. I hope they stick, because everyone's given a chance. You see the next game, the Chiefs-Bengals. Chiefs get the ball in overtime. Everyone's thinking they're winning, right? Patrick Mahomes versus Tyreek Hill. He doesn't catch it. It bounces into the hands of the safety or a corner, and that's a pick. Bengals get the ball, go drive down the field. Evan McPherson kicks the field goal to win that game and bring the Bengals to the Super Bowl.
I am on the other side. I think the overtime rules should be tweaked. I do think a defense needs to stop in that situation, just like the Bengals did. But in that game particularly, whichever team got the ball at that coin toss was winning the game. The Bills, no way the Chiefs would have stopped them.
Yeah, both of those teams, the Chiefs and Bills, were scoring nonstop. So whoever got the ball last, it was pretty sure that they were going to win. But at the same time, when I know you gave up 30, 40 points, but when you have the number one overall defense, you're supposed to stop them in overtime, right?
I know.
If you're trying to get to the Super Bowl and you have the number 1 defense, you're supposed to stop that team, aren't you?
Yep. For our viewers on YouTube, leave a comment on what you think should happen. Should it stay the same, or should there be a tweak in the overtime rules? Maybe both teams getting a chance at it, maybe playing a whole quarter out. I don't think that should be what happens, but I think it would be interesting if the Bills would have got a shot to score. I think it would have been interesting.
I would have loved having Josh Allen get another shot to go win that game.
To me, so in my life, that was literally the greatest game I've ever watched in my life. It felt kind of like a letdown at the end when the Chiefs were able to drive and you see Josh Allen on the sidelines obviously heartbroken. I mean, obviously, I'd be heartbroken. I mean, and everybody, he just thought he won the game with 13 seconds left.
I felt that he was sitting down so excited. Gabriel Davis so excited. He got his 4th touchdown. And Josh Allen, he's a pretty nice guy. If you see the interviews and everything, he's a pretty chill guy. And he's just so cool and calm. And just to see 13 seconds, them go drive down the field to kick the field goal, and they get the ball in overtime, so he's just sitting there throughout the whole of it, and he can't do anything. And it brings me to the point, that game went into overtime, but that also gives me a question to think about. What if the Bengals Rams Super Bowl went into overtime? If the Bengals won the toss, would we thinking of this conversation again, that if the Bengals got the ball in overtime and won the game, and won the Super Bowl, would we be talking about changing overtime rules? But on the same side, if the Rams stopped the Bengals in the Super Bowl, would people be talking about overtime rules? Probably.
We'll go back to the Super Bowl now. One game.
Yeah,
before. But Cooper Kupp
is such, he outshined himself this year.
100%.
Last year, he was such a good slot receiver and such a good possession catcher receiver. And this year, he just took up the game, triple crown, won the Triple Crown, which is super hard to do. You don't see that nowadays.
Yeah.
Getting receiving yards leader, touchdown leader, and receptions leader. It's just crazy to see. And he got Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, that's even crazier. I mean, the Rams have done a really good job setting him up for success because a true number one receiver typically doesn't line up in the slot often. They're on the outside, taking double coverages. But Cooper Kupp, they load him up wherever, and he finds a way to get open. Even if he's double teamed, he's open.
Somehow he just route running just went up to the next level this year. And Matthew Stafford and him, they've been working after practice and everything throughout the whole year. And you've seen that chemistry work so well.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout the whole season. And it's just like Cooper Kupp took the next level. I mean, he's not the receiver to go up and make catch and double coverage, but he's the receiver that will make almost any catch that you want him to make. He'll run any route that you want him to run. And somehow he just gets open. Like in the Bucs game, to win that game when the Bucs, Tom Brady was about to come back 27-3.
I forgot about that.
Cooper Kupp literally gets wide open on a deep in route, and then goes down the middle of the field and gets wide open again in field goal range. He does it twice in a row. I'm sitting there being like, "Oh my God, Cooper Kupp!"
That was another game. You're thinking to yourself, Tom Brady's about to come back.
I've had very bad memories of that, so I did not enjoy that much. But
he's an Atlanta Falcons fan, so let the memes come on through.
Whoa, memes and yeah, you know what? 28-3, whatever.
This was almost 25-3, and I think that would have
27-3.
But that would have pushed that game further back. We wouldn't have been talking about Atlanta. I think it would have been.
I would love to see that.
Well, of course.
But I think people would be talking about 28-3 because it's Super Bowl. But
Matthew Stafford comes to the Rams. Everybody knows, I think, deep down what he was capable of. But obviously, we didn't get to see that the past 10 years, him being on the Lions. But he took the Rams and, I mean, he didn't carry the Rams. I don't want people to say that. He did not carry that Rams team. It was a good team already. They just needed a quarterback. Aaron Donald, if he's not on that team in the Super Bowl, they don't win. If Cooper Kupp's not on that team in the Super Bowl, they don't win. If Odell Beckham Jr. isn't in the first quarter, they don't win that game. They probably don't make it without OBJ or one of those pieces. Like, they all just work together. But I'm very happy Matt Stafford front man.
Matt Stafford, that's one of those things. They needed a quarterback, they got a quarterback. And Matt Stafford's a good quarterback. He's shown it throughout his career in Detroit. He's been a very solid quarterback. He's got a strong arm, makes all the reads.
Tough.
very tough as well. And you saw the injury to both quarterbacks. And it's just Matt Stafford, as people want to say after the Super Bowl that he's even better now, like he's and Hall of Fame worthy. And he kind of he doesn't have all the stats yet. I mean, I guess if you want to say if a ring gets you to Hall of Fame, then maybe, yeah. But Matt Stafford didn't carry that Rams team like Ian was saying. It was the whole team around him.
Yeah, he was the missing piece, but they could have done that with Tom Brady, Matt Ryan. I could name Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Any of those guys could have carried that Rams team. But you take Aaron Donald out of there, they don't. The Bengals score on that final drive, and not only that, they probably score a lot more because in the final quarters, Aaron Donald was getting there. He wasn't able to throw the ball. So, like I said, super happy for Matt Stafford, but I don't even think there should be a conversation yet about him being in the Hall of Fame.
I totally agree with you. I don't think there should be a conversation. I mean, as Richard Sherman tweeted on Twitter that he doesn't think Matt Stafford deserves the Hall of Fame because you got a guy like Matt Ryan. He's got an MVP. He's got basically all the stats that Matt Stafford has. The only thing he doesn't have is a ring, and he has more accolades, more MVP, an MVP trophy, and he's just basically an all-around has basically a Hall of Fame resume, but without the Super Bowl. So if you want to say Matt Stafford deserves Hall of Fame because of the ring, then yeah, I guess he does.
The thing is, nowadays, it's a pass-heavy league. Granted, they're both good quarterbacks. Like, I'm not taking that away from them. But their numbers are so good compared to some of the older guys because they're throwing for 5,000 yards a season now. Back then, it was 4,200 yards a season. And that was a good year if you were throwing for over 4,000 yards. They're like, even if you look at the early 2000s, like, there was quarterbacks, it was MVP worthy if they hit 4,500 yards. And now, if they hit 5,000, it's a good year, but it's not, like, amazing like it used to be.
And the league is definitely getting pass happy, which is not a bad thing because a lot of quarterbacks, they're extra talented now. They have a lot more talent than some of these old pocket passes that we've seen go away and retire. It's just become an all-around mobile quarterback-driven league now.
Yeah, you can't just sling the ball. You have to be able to maneuver in and out of the pocket.
Talking about mobile quarterbacks, we didn't see that in the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford and Joe Burrow, they're not the mobile type.
No.
And they're still competing for the Lombardi Trophy. So it goes to say you need a good team around you to get to the Super Bowl, not just a mobile quarterback or not just a star quarterback.
You're right. With that being said, Joey Burrow. What a season.
Joe Burrow had just had an incredible season and was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL this year and still somehow made the Super Bowl, was the most sacked quarterback in the playoffs and still made the Super Bowl, got sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl and made it a 3-point game. How does that happen? You have to have some sort of toughness in you to be able to withstand that.
Not only what did he show he was tough by withstanding that, look at what he just came from. He had a basically broken leg. I mean, he was out over half the season last year, took the offseason off, came back, took his team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that Super Bowl, they could have tied the game to go on.
Oh, yeah. It was close into the last play of the game.
So now I want to talk about that 4th down play. Okay. So on 4th down, on Twitter, we've seen all sorts of stuff. Like Jamar Chase is wide open, but also the rub route on the left was wide open. If Joe Burrow gets that time...
1 second.
Let's say, I know Jamar Chase is the centerpiece of why they went to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And a lot of the questions were, what if they drafted Penei Sewell instead of Jamar Chase? Would Joe Burrow would have been able to go to another receiver and make it to field goal range and go to overtime, or maybe even win the game?
So, this is actually a really good topic. I don't think they make it to the Super Bowl even without Ja'Marr Chase. He's had way too many big plays that have won them games or put them in the lead. You don't beat the Chiefs in the regular season 45-42 without a big play like that. Like, you just don't. Now, they do have T. Higgins, they do have Tyler Boyd that are good options, but Ja'Marr Chase pulls a defender from them. Or it's the opposite. One of them pull a defender off Chase, and then you still have the running attack of Joe Mixon and CJ. Yeah. It's a good team. It really is.
Going and because you said that, I totally agree with you. Going back to that fourth down play, Ja'Marr Chase is wide open. If the line is able to block Aaron Donald like they did in the first half, they go down. I believe they go down that field and go and make probably overtime. It's going to overtime for sure if he gets that block.
And McPherson's not missing that kick. He's not. He's got it. I'm telling you. So, I'm also a Florida Gator fan. Seeing him come into the league and do what he's done, just the confidence he has. We're going to the championship. Boom, kicks it in.
He's a rookie kicker too, and he just says, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship game. He kicks it, bam, they're going to the AFC Championship game. And it's just crazy because kickers now, in recent years, some of them have been known to miss kicks.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a higher rate of missed field goals and mixed extra points than in the last decade.
Yeah. Yep. With the Bengals, do you think that they can repeat the success they had this year next year?
It's so hard to always make a prediction of if the same team can come back to the Super Bowl, because you see it nowadays. It's so hard in the NFL to repeat. The last time we've had a repeat Super Bowl was the 2003-2004 Patriots. That was the last time. That was 15 years ago. And
this year, sorry to interrupt you, but this year, we thought it was going to be the Chiefs. Like, you go in every year, the Chiefs are going to be the team. The Chiefs are going all the way. Now that the Bills are kind of stepping up, it's like, oh, wow, the Bills have a shot here. The Chiefs are going to be it. But now you got the Bengals that are on the up and coming. Zach Taylor, he seems to be a great coach. But when you make calls on 4th and 1 with your backup running back, when you have Joe Mixon,
that could have received it. That could have went out on a swing pass or something like that.
3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, you decide to run it.
And you only get a yard.
You only get a yard. What?
The play call was, I wanted them to pass it just because it was 4th down and 1, and I don't think you get it. I don't think you get it because Aaron Donald just was eating them up the whole fourth quarter. But to not have Joe Mixon out there on at least a swing pass or something, or an angle, that's just confusing to me. Was he tired? I don't think he was tired at all. They didn't put him in. It was the most important play of the Super Bowl. You get your team at least a chance to get a ring, to get the Lombardi trophy, if you put Joe Mixon in.
Yeah, and I feel kind of bad for Joe Burrow. I think the season he had, if he would have won the Super Bowl, would have went down as the comeback player of a lifetime. Like, the best comeback of a player of all time. To come off an injury like that and win. But I feel really bad because it's going to be super hard for them to repeat. There's some teams, like I said, the Chiefs, the Bills, you're like, wow, they're going. The Rams next year, if they keep their team and Sean McVay, you're going to, oh yeah, they're going back next year. The Bucks, if they would have kept Tom Brady, oh yeah, they're going back next year. But the Bengals, they're in a very tough situation. They're going to be able to keep most of their team, and they have a lot of cap room. But they're in one of the toughest divisions in football. Playing the Ravens twice, they got to play the Steelers. And even though they don't have a quarterback right now, they do have Mike Tomlin and Brian Flores.
And Brian Flores, talking about him, he just got signed by the Steelers to be the assistant running backs coach, I believe.
No,
linebackers coach.
Linebackers, yeah.
Yeah. And everyone by this point knows that Brian Flores is suing the NFL because the Giants, Texans,
and the Dolphins.
Somehow, like, he's accusing them of not hiring black coaches.
Yeah.
And he even said the Dolphins, I don't know, nothing's confirmed to be true, obviously, but he said that the owner of the Dolphins, or the head coach, the owner of the Dolphins, was trying to pay him to lose games so they'd get a higher draft pick. And if that's true, that's messed up. That's just borderline messed up. You can't, to pay someone to lose a game just so you have a higher draft pick, that's literally going against the agenda of a head coach. That's saying you're giving up.
Yeah.
But if you're getting paid and giving up, what does that say for your team? That means your team are giving up, and you can't have that mentality in the locker room. You guys see in edit, we had to plug in the laptop.
Some technical
difficulties on our first episode, but hey.
All right, so Brian Flores was getting paid, supposedly, our reports are saying, $100,000 to lose games. But what's crazy is, despite all that, he was still winning football games.
And winning football games, it should be the only thing that matters to at least the whole organization, even the owner. The owner wants to win games, right? Yeah. Why would you not be wanting to win games? I think that owner needs to be held accountable. If this is true, he needs to be held under liability and I've seen reports that he may be forced to sell the franchise.
That would be interesting, to say the least. Now, they seem to be rebuilding at the moment. I mean, they do have somewhat of a franchise quarterback in Tua. Who knows what his ceiling actually is. But subpar quarterback play so far. But Brian Flores was able to win games with him still.
Yeah, they were. Well, I think they were 2-7.
Right,
and they came back and ended the season 8-9.
Yeah, I mean
that's, to me, is a huge difference in whether your season's a complete failure or your season is a decent season, especially when you're rebuilding. Easily they could have just been 5-10 or 5-12 and just been a losing season. But to have that mentality in a locker room, to come back and win 7 straight games and have yourself a shot, at least a playoff chance, when your hopes are gone and you need to win 7 games in a row. 7 games in a row, and I know they played the Jets twice, and they played some teams that aren't great twice, but to win 7 games in the NFL, that's ridiculously hard, especially if you're going to the same opponent twice, no matter how bad the opponent is.
I was trying to look up how many wins the Dolphins actually have, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, he's getting a chance to resurrect his career in a sense. I think him and Mike Tomlin, defensive-minded coaches, 9-8, so they went positive. I mean, they had a winning season. And that's what the reports were saying. He had a winning season last year, and last year he had Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua.
Oh, yeah, Tua. Yeah. He kind of switching them.
Yeah. But they went 9-8, or no, because 8-8 maybe.
They may have went 8-8.
There was one less game last year. But anyway, not reasons for termination, in my opinion. Not after only 3 years. But I'm sure he's happy. They went 10-6. Back-to-back winning seasons and a 10-6 in the AFC East, where they have to play the Patriots twice a year, and the Bills. I don't know. You can't explain that one to me and make it make sense.
Yeah. No, Brian Flores should have had a head coaching job by now. And it's kind of messed up. Like, I know they've been saying a lot. It's still kind of messed up that there was only two black head coaches, or three, and now there's only two, and Brian Flores is now part of a organization that has a black head coach.
Correct.
So, are they saying, why didn't anyone else hire him? I don't know. I don't think I can. There's no answer we can get.
That's tough. I know as a Jaguars fan, I would have liked Brian Flores, but I personally feel we needed someone that could develop Trevor Lawrence. And while he did win games with Tua, to me, he hasn't shown he can really, truly develop a young quarterback. And that's what I wanted, which is why I'm ecstatic that we've got Doug Peterson.
Yeah, having a good head coach that can develop your young quarterback, just like how the Bears needed someone to develop Justin Fields, but they couldn't do that with Matt Nagy, so that's why they fired him. A part of why they fired him. And they Justin Fields, just talking about him a little bit. Out of the draft, I expected him to be the best quarterback in the draft after a few years, and definitely he's shown flashes. But at the end of the day, you need a head coach that can actually develop your young quarterback, so that way he can play to his ceiling and win you games.
Correct.
Which brings me back to Brian Flores. Brian Flores just got hired by the Steelers, and they already have a black head coach. So there's 31 other teams, and only one other team has a head coach that's black. And there's 30 teams that says, "Oh, I don't think we need Brian Flores." You think that's a thing because of his lawsuit, or you think it's a thing of the way they look at it?
That's tough. I think a lot of teams go into the offseason when they're looking for a head coach, and I think they have in mind kind of who they want before they're even interviewing anybody. I know I can only speak for like the stuff that I follow, and I'm a very big Jaguar follower. So I know that Doug Peterson, he was the first candidate for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's who they hired. Granted, it took 40 days later, but that's who we hired.
And it's just by hiring head coaches. There's so many head coaches around the league that's trying to fit. Like the Falcons, they took Arthur Smith last year, and he's shown that he can do well. I like him as a head coach. I was really happy that we signed him because he did really well as the offensive coordinator in Tennessee. He was really good, and that offense was really good last year, especially when you have Derrick Henry and you have a decent quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, and it's just detrimental to have that on a team if you want to win the championship.
Correct. We'll kind of stick with Brian Flores in a sense. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their quarterback situation. Now that Big Ben, wonderful career. I think a lot of Steelers fans wish he probably would have retired a season earlier, but nonetheless, they're all thankful for what he did for the city of Pittsburgh.
Ben Roethlisberger was one, regardless of what you think of the accusations, all the lawsuits and everything. Big Ben was a really good quarterback during his whole career, and you saw him slow down the last 2 years. You could easily tell. He knew he was going to end too. He knew he was going to retire anyways. But it's crazy to me how they somehow got a playoff spot this year in Big Ben's final season, even though they got blown out by Kansas City. It's just crazy to me. And talking about this quarterback situation, I think Desean Watson would be a good fit there.
Yes. Watson would be a good fit there, or Russell Wilson.
Both those quarterbacks would be really good fits. And I think Desean Watson a lot because Mike Tomlin, he's a really good head coach.
Oh yeah.
He hasn't had a losing season in his career, which is insane.
Yeah.
That's so hard to do. Bill Belichick isn't going to have that. I know he's played for so many years, but throughout his whole career, he's had Tom Brady.
Yep.
And that's just something that you don't see nowadays. To win every single season, to have a winning season, no matter if you make the playoffs or not.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, the Steelers team is good. They have a lot of pieces. They just signed TJ Watt to one of the biggest contracts ever for defensive player. Won Defensive Player of the Year, tied the sack record with 22.5. I know there was an extra game, but it's still an amazing accomplishment.
To have 22.5 sacks and tie Michael Trans, that's something unheard of because it hasn't been done. I don't think Aaron Donald's, I think, was the only one close enough with 19.5 sacks one year.
Right.
And just to have an extra game and they still couldn't beat it, I mean, that just shows you how hard it is to get sacks now in the NFL. Yeah. And Michael Tran was such a monster back in the day. He was such a monster.
He's one of my favorite defensive players that I got to grow up watching. Yeah, he was very good for the Giants. Very good.
Yeah, and then TJ Watt now is just dominating the league. And talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, Desean Watson, I really wanted someone to pick him up this year. I know all the allegations and stuff happened this year with the spa and everything, but Desean Watson is a good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback, and I think that the year off might actually not help him. I think anytime a quarterback takes some time off, he's going to have to learn these things again.
Yeah.
And having a year, being off of football the whole year, I think it's going to take a year or two before he even gets back to form.
Right. Unless he pulls a Joe Burrow.
Yep. Exactly.
Where he was hurt. Deshaun Watson's not. Deshaun Watson still gets to practice and stuff. I don't know if he has, but he's probably going to... It's hard to say. He's going to have pieces around him wherever he goes, I think. I don't think he's going anywhere that is a rebuild. I don't think that at all. I think he's going to go somewhere where there'll be pieces to help him, kind of bail him out in some situations. But we'll see. Where do you guys think he'll go? Comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Talking about the AFC with Steelers as well, I want to go back to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and something that happened recently within the last couple of weeks. There was a report that said that Patrick Mahomes sat down his girlfriend and his brother, the one who makes TikToks, and everyone's hating on them for it, and because of his girlfriend throwing champagne on random people. Okay, first of all, I don't think I would have been. I don't like that. I know some people are okay with it. That's cool, but just to throw champagne on just some random people below you, that's just glowing. It's just shoving in their face. Like, yeah, I have something you don't.
Can you imagine? Patrick Mahomes did tweet and say that he didn't have that conversation. But can you imagine if you had to do that?
If you had to have that conversation with your girlfriend and your brother saying, it looks bad on my part when you do these things, so I can't have you coming to games, that would dramatically affect the relationships.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Now, would I do that? I don't know.
If the problem occurred and if they're just becoming too big of a distraction, I don't think I'd say, I don't think you should come to games anymore. You got to sit down with them and say, be careful what you do because people are watching.
Yeah, and it's what a lot of people fail to realize is Patrick Mahomes is his own business. He's got to look out for himself. And I think his brother, especially his brother and his wife, they're not helping the situation. And it's only magnified because they lost. If they would have won, it would have been talked about, but nowhere near as much as it got blown out of proportion, I think, with reports coming that he had to sit down with him. Like, even if that did happen, that that report doesn't come out if they win.
Yeah. No, if they win that game, no one's talking about that because they're in the Super Bowl and potentially winning it.
Correct.
And bringing that point, the Patrick Mahomes, I don't know what happened that second half of that game against the Bengals. They completely got dismantled. At the end of the half, with a few seconds left, he throws to Tyreek Hill, and time runs out. When usually you're supposed to just throw it out because you had no time. They messed that up, and then second half, I believe Andy Reid said something in the halftime that made him question his decisions more in the second half, which I think led to a lot of things happening where he played more conservative.
Well, there was also reports saying that Eric Bieniemy got involved with the play calling or something. Who knows how true that is, because it's also weird that he's not a head coach.
That's such a good point, because we're talking about Brian Flores not getting a head coaching job and getting fired. Eric Bieniemy, he's been the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs for a while, and he's been so good. That Chiefs offense is so explosive. The fact that he doesn't have a job yet means something's going on, right?
Yeah, has to be. Now, my own opinions is I feel like teams are afraid that it's Andy Reid's play calling that makes Eric look good. And you don't know, because Andy Reid does call the plays, but who knows like what's going on in the practices and under that play calling headset. So who knows? There's got to be something going on why he doesn't have a head coaching job.
And speaking about coaches, to go over to the NFC side, Matt LaFleur is third year, and he leads his team back to divisional round with Aaron Rodgers, loses after a whole week of a bye. I mean, what can you say? The Packers, they're supposed to be going to the championship game every year, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to lose in the NFC Championship.
Yeah, but they lost the first round this year. But just to have that team, they actually had a good defense this year. The Packers did, and that's gotta be so deflating to have such a good season, be number one, get the number one bye, and just to lose in the first round.
Quarterback.
Exactly, 2 straight years in a row.
Yeah,
and to lose that way, both years. How do you do that?
I don't know.
That team's supposed to make the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
That team's supposed to go to the Super Bowl. That team's supposed to get their Super Bowl win.
There was 3 teams in the NFC throughout the year. You were like, that's the team. But the Green Bay Packers, that was the team. After week 1, where Aaron Rodgers looked terrible against the Saints, he completely changed his game back to what we know Aaron Rodgers is about. But for him to struggle like he did against the 49ers, I just don't know.
It's hard to explain because you have this good team that goes 13-3 every year.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be able to win those big games, but you can't. What is going on there? There's got to be something going on in the locker room or something. Yeah. Something with the play calling, something. That's like, how do you keep losing? You're supposed to be winning because your window is so close. It's at a point where it's about to close. And if you can't win it, you're not going to win for a while.
Yeah, especially with the reports of Aaron Rodgers not coming back. I personally think he comes back. I think his options are very limited. I think a lot of teams would trade for him, but Aaron Rodgers isn't going to go to anybody. He's going to go to a winner, and most winners have a quarterback.
It's literally what's happened. That's literally how it's done. And for them not to be able to win that playoff game against the Niners and at least go to an NFC Championship game, that just says so much about the coaching situation.
Correct.
Not saying that Matt LaFleur is a bad coach. He's a good coach. I like him, honestly. I like him. He's a really good coach.
He's young.
He's young. But to have that team and not win says something's wrong. But yeah, and now I want to go to another NFC team, the Arizona Cardinals. So I really love this year.
Yeah.
They went 7-1. They're supposed to be the number 1 seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet again this year, Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach, this is his second year, and last year they kind of did the same thing too.
Oh, yeah.
They had a real good record. Then they lost four out of last 5, and they missed the playoffs. This year, they kind of melted down there in the second half too. So I just brings up questions too. Why did they so bad in the second half?
So at the beginning of the year, I told literally everybody I know, Cliff Kingsbury is going to be the downfall of that team. I think Kyler Murray's good. I think Kyler Murray's a good athlete. I think he's good. And they have a lot of pieces. They have defensive pieces. They have offensive pieces. But Cliff Kingsbury's play calling, in my opinion, is just not it. I think a lot of teams have figured him out.
Just to have that team with an explosive offense that rivaled the Packers, that was a really good game, the Packers-Cardinals game. It came down to a wire and A.J. Green missing it.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say that's one of the moments that maybe some things got deflated, maybe. But at the same time, how do you have that team that's so explosive and won that many games against good teams? It's not like they're playing bad teams and went 7-1. They're playing good teams that went 7-1. And to have a meltdown and then continue that meltdown in your playoff game against a team that you know well, that can't happen. That can't happen if you're trying to win a championship, right?
No, they can't. And that's why I placed a lot of the blame on Cliff Kingsbury. And
Kyler Murray is such a good. I really like Kyler Murray. As soon as he got drafted, I loved him. Like, as soon as he got drafted, I knew he was going to be a good quarterback. And he's so special, so different than a lot of quarterbacks. And it's just crazy to see how they could have this big of a meltdown. And him making bad reads, him making questionable decisions too. I don't know how that can happen when you're having such a good season.
So let's keep talking about quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield. All right.
A lot of people are hating on him, and I really want to wait one more year, but I don't see why. I think he's getting overblamed. I don't see why he's getting blamed.
He was hurt.
He had an injured shoulder for the last part of the season, and people are expecting him to make all these big plays. What are you going to do with your injured shoulder? They should have said, "Hey, we got to make sure our quarterback's good. It's okay. This season's over." They should have tried to fix the shoulder. But for people to blame Baker Mayfield just because he's a quarterback, that doesn't make any sense. You have a quarterback. The Browns, you're lucky to have Baker Mayfield. You're lucky to have a decent quarterback. You know how many quarterbacks the Browns went through? They went through like 15 to 20 different quarterbacks throughout the last 15 years. And that's not good. That's horrible. And to be, even so many Browns fans are going down so hard on Baker Mayfield. That's the quarterback. Why aren't you supporting him? You haven't had that good of a quarterback since probably the Stone Age.
Yeah, and coming into this year, the Browns were hot. They were the AFC. They were one of the AFC teams. Baker Mayfield's the reason that they're irrelevant right now. I mean, granted, they still have Nick Chubb. I mean, they have a lot of pieces too. Myles Garrett, but they had pieces before. It's just when Baker Mayfield came in, once he was drafted, and then came in for Tyrod Taylor, the whole team, it was a culture shock for the Cleveland Browns. They completely changed. And I'm not saying it was just him, but it kind of was.
It's so hard for me to think about it because I don't know how people can just hate a quarterback so much when he's done so much good for you.
Yeah.
And you could obviously see he was injured when he was throwing.
Oh, yeah.
And they were still blaming him, oh, Baker can't throw. He has an injured shoulder. What are you going to do with an injured shoulder? You're probably not even going to be playing.
Yeah.
But it brings to the point, in that same division, you look at the Ravens. And I want to know your honest opinion on Lamar Jackson. Because at that time, he has to show that he's good. I like him.
Oh, yeah.
But what do you think about him?
It's tough. This was a hard year for the Baltimore Ravens. They had the most injuries. Oh, well, I think the Titans had the most injuries, but the Ravens were up there. I mean, the beginning of the season, their first overall or their first round draft pick gets hurt for the season. Then Lamar goes down, and Huntley comes in and does a decent job. But Lamar, you have to game plan differently for him. I think they need to pay him what he wants, in my opinion. He's kind of the culture right now.
The only problem I have with Lamar is he's so mobile, and to have that offense that John Harbaugh has with him, like he knows how to work with Lamar.
Yeah,
and that relationship is so good. But Lamar, he's kind of like the better version of Cam Newton in his prime. So he can run, but he's not the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. But he's gotten better. I'm not going to fully go down with him. He's gotten better with something Cam Newton couldn't do.
Yeah.
But he's got to be more accurate with the football. I know, and he's had so many comebacks this year. There were some really good games. The game against the Colts, specifically, in the Monday night game, they came back and they won that game, and that was Lamar Jackson going off, throwing well and everything. But as a quarterback, you got to be able to throw the football decently to be able to win games. And I just don't know yet. And it's been 4 to 5 years. I don't know if Lamar Jackson can do that.
And again, that's one of the toughest divisions in football. Mike Tomlin, Cleveland Browns, and the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl. So, I guess next topic for discussion is going to be the Panthers quarterback situation. Who do they go for?
I think they might have to draft. I think they should draft a quarterback this year.
I think so too.
And I think his name's Malik Willis. That's what I'm...
There's a bunch of... This is the first draft I don't know any of the quarterbacks.
Yeah. That's the only quarterback I know. I don't really know too much about college.
I know Pickett was one of the names thrown around.
Pickett, yep.
But there's also reports he's going to get drafted before the Panthers. So, who knows? What do you think of Matt Rule?
I don't... It's his first year, so we'll wait and see another year, but I don't know how I feel about him. I don't think he's a good coach.
I'm not sold yet.
I'm not sold on him.
I got to watch him again. They started off hot.
Yeah. Yep. They started off hot, but they went 3-0.
Yep. And then the lack of judgment to pick Sam Darnold as your quarterback.
I mean, Sam Darnold's not horrible, but he showed signs of why he wasn't starting for the Jets.
Right. Let's see.
And I kind of thought that Matt Rule kind of figured out Sam Darnold a little bit when they went 3-0. I was like, okay, Sam Darnold's looking okay. He's looking decent. Yeah, maybe they figured him out how to use him. And then right away, bam, Sam Darnold said, nope, I'm going to be me. And so do a ghost.
I'm seeing ghosts out there.
Yeah.
That's a winnable division for every team in that division.
Now that Tom Brady's gone, that NFC South is so wide open.
Yeah.
And just talking about the NFC South, I want to go to my Falcons.
Okay.
Because we're there. Just saying about the Falcons, this year, I knew this year wasn't going to be perfect because, to be honest, Matt Ryan has never had a good defense in his whole career. Even when we went to the Super Bowl, he's never had a defense to actually be good and there for him. You see that crumble and fall out of the Super Bowl in 28-3. the defense couldn't stop Tom Brady. Why? They just needed one stop. And if we actually have a decent defense, we win that football game. But to have a 25th overall defense when you're going to the Super Bowl, that's crazy good to have. Crazy. That means your team's good to be able to make a Super Bowl. But to have no defense, that's saying basically, we need Matt Ryan to be everything for us. Yeah. And that can't happen. Winning the Super Bowl is a team game. Yep. That's why the Rams won the Super Bowl. Aaron Donald, Von Miller. Von Miller's a huge pickup.
Yeah, OBJ. To take off. You've seen what happened to the Rams when OBJ got hurt. They almost shut down.
Yeah. So if the Falcons can have a defense, I think we can make the playoffs and make a run. It's just that for some reason we can't find a defense that can be good. I've seen it throughout Matt Ryan's whole career. If he had Tom Brady's defense on his teams, we're winning the Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah.
And the problem is that a lot of people are hating on Matt Ryan, and I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Because he's a good quarterback, and he's shown that he's a good quarterback this year. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not a mobile quarterback. I mean, you don't have to be. You see Peyton Manning, you see Tom Brady, you see all these big name quarterbacks that are pocket passers, and Matt Ryan's one of the really good pocket passers.
Yeah.
But this year, I think we should draft an edge rusher.
There's a lot in this.
There's a lot, and I'm so excited because we could have had PJ Watt, and I'm really disappointed in that. But we need an edge rusher, and I think that's going to be a big thing going forward for my team this year. So let's go to your team, Ian.
All right, so I am a Jacksonville Jaguars fanatic. Obviously, this year was terrible as a Jaguars fan. Now, it wasn't all terrible. We got to see Trevor Lawrence push through adversity that I don't think any rookie quarterback has ever had to do. You've got a head coach that goes to the bars. I mean, I don't know. I really don't understand.
It was a big distraction.
Huge.
And I thought the Urban Meyer might have been good.
I was excited. I really was. I was super excited. But it didn't work out. He's gone. We got Doug Peterson now. And I'm excited because I've seen what he could do with Carson Wentz. And I've seen what he could do with Nick Foles. And that gives me so much hope that he can kind of turn it around. And as a Jaguars fan, this upcoming season, I'm going to lay it out right now, I do not expect a playoff run. I don't expect that. I expect 7 wins tops. If I get more than that, I'll be super happy. Super happy. But I want to see Trevor Lawrence develop. I want to see James Robinson and Travis Etienne get some good touches. And I want to see our defense play a little better.
The Jaguars are my second team, so I'm happy whenever they do good. But I don't think that's for another few years. They need to develop Trevor Lawrence, and they need to build that team a little bit. So I think that's going to be a few years before we see anything out of them. But their signs, Trevor Lawrence looks good. Yeah. He did throw a lot of interceptions this year, but he's a rookie, so doesn't even matter right now. So talking about quarterbacks, something just popped in my mind right now. It was a quarterback situation in Indianapolis in the same division. Carson Wentz, and there's recently been reports that they're going to trade him or release him.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, who are you going to get if you release Wentz?
So, me personally, the Colts are right there on the cusp of being great. They've got a great team, great coaching staff. If I'm the Indianapolis Colts, I'm not drafting. I don't think there's good enough quarterbacks in this draft to draft. I would give someone like Marcus Mariota, maybe even Mitchell Trubisky, I'm trying to think of another, like, on the, like, maybe trade for, like, a Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few different options out there. You got Jimmy G.
Hey, who knows? Maybe they could get Jimmy G or Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, they have a solid team that anybody wanting to make the playoffs, that's a perfect situation. You got Jonathan Taylor, the best running back in the league this year, since Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey got hurt. You've got a decent wide receiver group. You've got the best offensive line, a good defense. Like, what's not to love about that?
There's not too much to complain about that team because they have a really good defense. They had an offense. They have pieces. They have a whole line. So to lose against the Jaguars to lose a playoff spot, that's inexcusable. That's gonna hurt Frank Reich more than it does the organization.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to win that game. Everyone's saying they're supposed to win that game because
it's the Jaguars.
The Colts were my dark horse team that if they made the playoffs, they would have made a run. But to be losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's so inexcusable to have that team and to lose against the Jaguars.
Yeah,
it's so weird. And I was watching that game and I just hated the way Carson Wentz played.
Yeah.
He played bad.
I think they changed their playbook for whatever reason because they were afraid Carson Wentz would ruin the game. But they ruined the game. So.
And that's the team. That's the game you're supposed to win. That's like literally do or die. And you just don't want to
do or die against the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, and you don't want the worst team in the NFL. And
as a fan, I'm going to call them the worst team in the NFL. I'm not going to.
What about the Texans? Okay.
The Texans beat us twice.
Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, sure then. Okay, I'll agree with you. But we are Ian's Jaguar fan. I'm a Falcon fan. So if either of those teams make the Super Bowl next year, we need some tickets.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and close off on the podcast. We appreciate you for listening. If you're still listening this late, this was our first episode.
Yeah, so if it's a little rough, well, it's our first. We haven't really done this before, so if you guys did enjoy, do leave a like. This podcast will be on Spotify, Tidal, your favorite streaming platforms for podcasts. So definitely go check it out if you need something to listen to in your car, if you're driving home from work, or driving to work. Definitely check us out. And thank you guys for listening. And comment down below at any teams you want us to talk about that we didn't.
Yeah.
Because
or any topics.
Yeah, or any specific topics you want us to talk about. Definitely let us know.
We're big Madden fans too, so we can bring up Madden, any off-season rumors. Thank
you guys for watching. Next podcast, we're probably going to be talking about the draft a little bit. So get ready for that.
And coaching hires. Now that these head coaches have their staff together, we'll probably dive into that a little bit and any off-season news that comes up between now and then.
So thank you guys for joining the PI podcast, and we'll see you in the next podcast.